Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jacob, joined as always by Carver. How's it going, man? How are you doing?
Doing as well as I can with the current events. I'm ready to try to escape for a little bit. How are you? Oh,
I'm doing all right.
hit us with the. There you go.
I usually the last time I had one of these was a celebratory moment, and I'm still gonna take it that way, but not because I'm a crazy person.
Yeah.
Because life's a little chaotic. Dortmund's won 2 games though. I'll celebrate that. And
There
Carver
we
had a
go.
big soccer win tonight too. So, and you know what?
Mm,
I haven't had a beer in a while, and a beer just sounds pretty good right now.
that sounds nice.
So yeah, that's exciting. We got some exciting soccer stuff to talk about. So let's get into it because we were both pretty down last episode. I think for valid reasons.
Yeah, right.
Uh, First time I've never predicted a win for Dortmund. My expectations were on the floor for this match against Leipzig. They've turned us over multiple times. We're still have so many injuries. I had no expectations. Carver and I did meet up and actually watch this game together at Amsterdam Tavern with a couple other people. Shout out Chaz, who was there, and a couple other guys from the Borussia STL group. So nice hanging out and catching a win. As I said, very surprised, but very happy to actually win. I'm not happy, or I'm not mad about being wrong with this prediction. I will gladly take it every day of the week. So yeah, Dortmund winning 2-1 over Leipzig with, I mean, we can go over the lineup. It's kind of, you know what you're getting, but
Right.
like, I mean, obviously, like, I know, how are you feeling going into this match other than down like I was?
Well, I was anticipating Saturday to be Nuri's funeral. I figured
Yeah.
he was going to be out already with the Pokal exit, with the little to no answers after pretty beatable teams. You do have an injury crisis cranked up to 1,000. I mean, you have to give him credit for that more than anything for grinding out these results with against very tough oppositions, right? I mean, Leipzig have beaten us 3 out of our last 3 in all competitions, Pokal and Bundesliga. Again, I've said this before, Rosa really knows how to exploit Dortmund's weaknesses. So and especially against a coach like Nuri, who's, a bit naive at times and also too negative too early at times. So I was really expecting us to be not only a bloodbath, but again, Nuri's funeral. And I left the game pleasantly surprised with not only the result, but the performance as well. I mean, pretty much everyone in this team pulled their weight. Shaheen crafted a game plan that made Leipzig rely way too heavily on defending and just generally looked uncomfortable. They couldn't execute their game plan well. They couldn't press that well. I mean, it was all countered in a very smart way by Nuri, and you have to really give Shaheen that credit there. In the 4-1-4-1, the way they set up, I mean, of course, some people are saying like it's a 4-3-3, or other people are calling it a 4-1-2-3. There's a handful of different ways you could look at it. I see the arguments for all of them with, how the game flowed. But either way, it really made Leipzig look uncomfortable. A team that conceded, what was it, like 2 or 3 goals before that?
Just 2,
I called bullshit on that stat. I forgot about, of course, I fact checked myself, but I heard that live. And as the game was going, I was like, that's cap. And then I looked and I was like, holy shit. After 7 or 8 games, Leipzig seriously has only conceded 3 goals, which is mind boggling. And the fact that we put 2 on them pretty early on in this game is pretty, again, is pleasantly surprising.
Yeah. So running through the lineup, of course, riddled with injuries. And on that note too, like we might have mentioned it last week. Of course, we were kind of in the position where we're like, man, Shaheen, we're ready for Shaheen to be out, ready for a change. I feel like there's just been the amount of games we've played, like it seems just like we need to turn things around in one way. That's what we're calling for all last week. Like something needs to change. It seems like that's the thing we need to change. I think I did see reports, or he's almost like protected by this injury crisis right now, which I understand, right, but things weren't trending that well to begin with. And I probably even said this last week too. Like, I would almost say he kind of was set up to fail. Like, the squad building isn't there already. Like, yes, we have injuries, but we're already short in positions anyways. Even with these, like, I'm not saying like if they would have built the squad properly, like we would still be going some kind of an injury crisis right now, right? But we'd probably be a little better off. We'd at least have some more first team guy. Like one first team guy on the bench, Daniel Mullen. and then Cole Campbell if you want to count him as a first team guy. But I wouldn't quite qualify him just
Yeah, you
yet.
kind of have to now with how many minutes he's been getting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is crazy to think about if anyone didn't notice that. A single senior player.
Yeah. So the rest of the lineup, though, Meyer in goal. Obviously, Coble was out. The joking rumor is that he probably broke his fist after punching a wall after the last match. I don't think that's actually the case. But Pascal Gross at right back, Emre Can and Schlotterbeck are two center backs. Binza Baini playing at left back with Mecha in the middle, Sabitzer and Brandt, and Meyer. Nope, sorry, Bayer. Meyer's in goal. Bayer. I was like, who did I just make? Did I just make up a player? No. Bayer on the right, Gittens on the left, and Girassi holding it down up top. And like we said, the bench stacked with kids again, with the exception of Danya Mullen. Everyone else we've kind of seen on the bench before, but it's all the kids. It's all the kids.
I got a few people here that I'd like to talk about individually, and I'd like to start with Emre Can. 3 performances. I don't want to skip ahead to the Champions League, but counting that Champions League game, 3 performances in a row where he has really asserted himself. He played the way that you would expect from a captain, from a leader. He defended valiantly. He, was just a leader in that back line. He helped organize. He was tracking back a lot. He was very, very smart and also dominant in his tackling. His positioning was pretty solid as well. Too, whenever you're not relying on him to do all of that work with the ball at his feet, he's not horrible looking whenever he does have the ball at his feet because he's a bit deeper in the back line now. He's got a little bit more time and space to think about what he wants to do. It was nothing, too crazy with, him in possession, but just it wasn't bad. And just again, against the ball, the defending was phenomenal. I really got to tip my hat to him in those 3 games. He's been going through the ringer when it comes to this criticism from people like ourselves even, and rightfully so. He deserves that, especially when you are captain and you are not bringing that certain standard to the team. But what a turnaround for him for these last few games, and I hope you can continue that forward because that is the captain that we need right now.
Sometimes I go back and forth with like, how critical should we be, or like, should I be a dick? And I'm, and I don't know, like, but I'm not saying let everyone go be dicks, but it's just nice to see. Like, I think criticism was warranted with the performances he was giving. And is this the Emre Can apology? Maybe halfway there. I don't know. It's good to see him step up and as you mentioned, as the captain, kind of make a bit of a statement, or at least step up to the responsibility and be like, okay, I need to step up personally. I need to step up on the pitch, and I need to just put out some good performances. And I appreciate that he's doing that. That's what we need from our captain. Like, we might not agree that he should even be the captain. And I mean, we did see, was it after Wolfsburg? Like, we saw him like lose his spot in the starting 11, and now it's like he's playing because we're injured, but he's coming in at center back, and like I'll take it. Like, I'll much rather have an Emre Can putting in a good performance at center back than getting just ran through in the middle of the park.
Right. And he's done this before. He's been in this back line is obviously much better, but he's been in a makeshift back line from the likes of like Nico Schultz and Paslek on either side of him, Pungracic, or like Witzel, for God's sake. So, for him to bring stability in a back line with, love Pascal Gross to death, and he also has been playing very, very well out of position. But, he's not a natural right back. He sure as hell doesn't have the pace to keep up with a lot of Leipzig's players in that front line. But I mean, they just made Leipzig look really, really average in possession. And it is no easy task. I mean, again, against a team that is, often you could argue that Leipzig, whenever it comes to big games, they kind of fall flat, but not against Dortmund in these last several meetings. And they haven't really taken the game to us. So the fact that we were able to flip that sort of game on its head is very encouraging going forward.
Yeah. So I think this whole game, we looked like the much better team, as you said. Like, they were just on the defense. We had way more control, and it did feel like a control, right? It wasn't like because they were necessarily giving us possession and they wanted to sit back. Like, seemed like we had control, and we were kind of creating chances. Like, unfortunately, they actually got the first goal, and it felt like one of their first chances. They were able to, like, they got close and they did kind of cut through our defense. I do think Emre Can, you can be a little critical on his defending of was it Opinda? He kind of chased Opinda out probably a little too far, and then just kind of left Chesko or space for Chesko to run through. Crazy shot, like crazy angle. Meyer got his hand on it, but it was kind of too fast for him to stop.
Right.
And it was so like upsetting to see them get score on basically their first chance.
Yeah.
Especially when it felt like we were playing really well. This came in the 30th minute. Yeah, and that, I just remember kind of us sitting there like, oh, here it
Yeah, I
goes.
should
And
say,
here's going to be the rest of the game is going to be like this.
yeah, looking back, Chan did get cooked from that back heel from Openda twice that game, like the exact same
Yeah.
play. But other than that, much better in performance. And just that warrior mentality, again, was shared by so many other
Yep.
players around the field. I just briefly touch on Ben Zibaini. I mean, he's had a lot of criticism as well. It's been very hard for him to get a spot in this team, rightfully so, but very, very similar praise to him in that fact. I also just wanted to mention Bayer, too, and this one won't be as quick, but he has really begun asserting himself in this team, Maxi Bayer. I mean, he missed that big chance early on, the header. He hasn't been that impressive in the year in general, and that's something he's obviously going to need to work on. But he's young, he's got time, plenty of time. Shaheen has emphasized that and reiterated that time and time again here these past few weeks to a month. And with almost no other alternatives, Bayer has been forced to play through this rut of form, and he's never dropped his head. He's showed perseverance. He's showed grit to continue to fight for the ball. He's put on a lot of defensive efforts here. Just in the Leipzig game, you had the goal, you had the assist, of course, but you also had 3 chances created, 2 interceptions, 5 recoveries, 8 out of his 14 duels won, and 3 fouls won as well. So he was really getting stuck in on some of these challenges, and he just didn't give up on plays for a lot of the times either. So, just wanted to shout some praise over there real quick because I have not been that convinced of him so far. But, obviously he's going to have time to keep growing into this team. But this is a game that he really gained a lot of confidence, and you could see it.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the missed header, but of course, I think it was the Wolfsburg match where you had the opportunity to give us the lead in that match. It ended up being a good save by the keeper too. But that on top of the missed header, it's like, oh no. But I mean, we're talking about Bayer because he's the one who got this first goal, right? Just 3 minutes in the 30th minute. Sorry, their first goal was in the 27th. I said 30th earlier. But 3 minutes after Leipzig scored, instead of dropping our heads, instead of kind of just being down and letting it happen again, like we were able to turn things around. This is something like we have seen definitely a lot more of from this Dortmund team, to be able to get right back into games. And not only did Bayer get this goal here, but I think it was like 29th minute, Jamie Gittens went through and had a chance that ended up being a good save by Galachi, but thankfully like just a minute after that. I think that's what led to the corner kick to this. Bayer getting on the end of it. You gave some praise to Benzabaini, who I believe got the initial header or volley that kind of bounced through to Bayer, who got the flick on right in front of the goal. Yeah, and from that you just see the confidence build, right? And Bayer like starting on the right wing kind of is a little different. Like that's not, I wouldn't call that his natural position. Like maybe like I know he can play left wing a bit, but I mean he's looking great. And then we see him later on get the assist for Girassi. So it's great to see him start to build this confidence, even if he's a little bit out of position.
Yeah,
especially if we're a team who just kind of throw people around sometimes.
Oh, not sometimes. Virtually every single game we've seen this season. But
I mean, even Malen and Adeyemi, like that's very much some of the styles. Let them kind of run all over the place, and if he can just be another factor to that, like it's just good.
Well, the work rate with and against the ball from Bayer is miles ahead of the likes of Malen, JBG. I mean, we haven't seen too much of Duranville. Duranville has moments of that, but I'm just thinking like after this game, like man, if Bayer continues to build on this form and build this season or even next season, and we want to look at like a front because Malen seems out the door. He's mentally been checked out for a while. He has been contributing here and there, but mentally he seems checked out. You look at a front three of Girassi, Adeyemi, and Bayer. Girassi already does a lot of the dirty work. He's dropping deep into midfield to help with that build-up, to create space in behind, just being a menace for any back line. And then you throw in the likes of Adeyemi and Bayer, who does even more dirty work than that. They have the warrior mentality. We already know how Adeyemi is a monster in terms of just like drawing fouls, his aggression, his physicality. And just, not to mention his pace, of course, either. You had Bayer dropping back, not even as a winger, but like you would argue most of the time in this game, a midfielder. You throw Adeyemi on the other side of that. That's a dangerous front three to really handle all game. I mean, whether you're attacking, defending, those two are going to be on you. And the fact that now you have Girassi as a focal point of that can be very, very dangerous. And I'm interested to see how we're going to look going forward with those three as the team starts to get a bit more healthy again.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it multiple times. Like, he is so young. He's 22, so there's plenty of time to get integrated in this team. Like, I think it's something I always try to remind myself and say on the podcast so much is like when we get a new signing, and they don't kick on immediately, you just got to remember like it can take some time. And maybe he can, since he already played in the Bundesliga, like I think that's a struggle. Like there was a lot of criticism with Adeyemi in his first year. And like, I just always said like it's a big jump from the Austrian Bundesliga to the Bundesliga. And I mean, maybe this might be the good transition into the Sturm Graz game. But it can just take time for people to integrate and click. And especially with given our injuries and everything going on with the team. And I'll use this little spot to say, I will not stand for the Brandt hate or the Brandt criticism. I know maybe he hasn't been at his top form, what we want to see, but I think so much can contribute from like the not outside factors, but the internal factors within the club with the injuries and everything. And if things seem a little unstable, you can't just expect everyone to perform at their maximum level. But back to Maxi Bayer. Yeah, it's great to see him kind of get into form, build this confidence. And I just want to see the dude grow a bit. He's so scrawny and small, but I love like that he still has no fear and he will be aggressive, but get that boy in the weight room a little bit, bulk him up a bit. And yeah, he can be real dangerous.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I do kind of got to echo some of those criticisms for Brent. I mentioned before, I think we need more from our 10. He's provided a handful of assists, of course, but he's had opportunities in front of goal. I think he could do a little bit better on, and just in general, I've mentioned already that the areas I think he can be improving in. So I would say, from a fellow Brent boy himself, love the man to death, and I defended him deep into those Favre years when probably 70 to 80% of the fan club or the fan base wanted him gone. But still, I don't want him slipping too much, and he needs to meet those standards as well.
Do you think there is one player who is performing at a consistent level? Girassi, maybe?
Yeah, I was gonna say besides Girassi,
but that's my point. Like if
right.
I get we need him to be better, I get that. But I think when we're also calling for the coach to be fired, and when we have no first team, like 10 first team players out injured, and he's playing every single minute, I think you almost have to put that same, like we need Sabitzer to step up, we need Mecha to step up. I'd argue that Mecha has been better than what we expected this year. He's been a lot better this year, but I don't think there's been one single player who's actually been at a top level.
I think the two you can make, well, Girassi is a given, but I think the other one you could make an argument for is Gross. I mean, Gross has had like some games here and there where he's been okay, but for the most part, very, very solid, very consistent, and consistently involved in a number of aspects of our game. So those two, but outside of that, I totally see your point. Everyone else has been consistently inconsistent.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, let's unless you got anything else from this game. Anyone else you want to shout out? We can get it.
That's it.
Oh, it was so good.
It was.
Good. Yeah, moving on to Sturm Graz Champions League midweek. Ooh, this game was a little shaky. Starting with the lineup again, which was exactly the same pretty much. I think it was the same bench. I was so surprised going in this one because I know it was, yes, it's a home game, and we have not lost a Champions League home game in a very long time. Are we still undefeated at home like this season too? Like,
yes,
both competitions. I get wanting to maintain that purely because of the need for rest for these guys. I was very much like, just play the kids in this game. And then we see the lineup and it's exactly the same. So, yeah.
It wasn't the prettiest game, and I think you contribute a lot of that to exhaustion. I mean, just with the injuries that we have and those players going through, mind you, 4 games in 10 days, one of them going to 120 minutes. So you're talking like was that, like 4 or 5 hours minimum of football in the span of 10 days. I'm very, very happy that we got a win and a clean sheet in a game like this. I mean, again, not a great performance. Like you mentioned, very shaky at times that I had no idea if we're going to be able to be able to pull out a goal here, but we stuck with it all game. Malin came in and had a decent finish. Girassi barely staying on side with whoever that Sturm Graz defender was. His thick ass was keeping Sarah offside.
I love that Dortmund even posted that photo. It was insane.
Right. Yeah, that Giat,
like,
or
dude,
however
why
you
are
say
you
it.
dropping it low, dude? Just like stand up.
Girassi was going, shit, you're gonna keep me on side like that?
That booty though.
Yeah.
No, this game felt very much like, I mean, as it just progressed, I was like, we're gonna lose. They're gonna break through, and
be a 0-0,
lose.
or maybe even a 1-0 for them.
I think there were some post-match comments from Shaheen. I read he was like, we didn't expect. He basically said we didn't expect them to be able to just like maintain that kind of pressure or that high level of intensity. We thought they were going to drop off, and they didn't. They just kept going. And at the same time, it's like we can't make subs to freshen it up because we don't have anyone to freshen it up, and these guys are dead. And I do understand like maybe trying to like letting these guys have another run out, although it's not the choice I would have made. I have never even come close to coaching except like when my younger brother was like 5. So who knows? It would not be my choice to start all these guys, but I do understand if you think you can just power through and get an early lead and then start resting these guys around 60 minutes, not 55 like we saw against Madrid, but 60 minutes. Like I get that, but yeah, this was rough. And as it got later, I just felt like, because they started to break through a little more, I just felt like we're gonna lose this one. Luckily, we do see Malin come in and he's able to get the goal, put it away. Which I know I do want to talk Malin a little bit, and especially coming in this game, there were comments by Shaheen specifically on why he didn't start these last 2 matches, saying he had a conversation with him. It was about his performance in the Wolfsburg match. Shaheen didn't like what he saw, and that's why he benched him. So it was good to see him come in and have an impact, get that goal. He made a really good tackle late on in the game too. But not only like finishing the goal, but starting that goal. Like he won the ball high off a high press, got it to Girassi. Girassi did his thing, dished it off to him, and he was able to bury it and get the win. So good on him. I know the talk is like he's out the door. He's been checked out. We heard this last year too.
Yeah.
He wants to move on, and like that's all in what. Like I understand if you want to move on to bigger and better things, quote, and maybe he came to Dortmund.
No such thing as a bigger and better thing than Dortmund. Sorry, just gotta.
I said quote unquote.
Okay,
I didn't say just if you're not watching the video, I even said quote unquote. I did it with my hands too.
Gotta double down on that.
Like maybe him coming to Dortmund, he already had that in mind too. Maybe he was looking at it as a stepping stone, and that's fine. That's fine if that's your thing. If you don't want to be here, that's fine. But I'm glad he was able to come in, and it sounds like if this conversation happened and it went decently well, he's able to play himself inside the team. Great, because I know he gets a lot of hate too, but I also think he's been performing and he's been a decent player for us recently. I think there's been spans where he definitely deserves criticism. We've also dished that criticism, but he's still a Dortmund player right now. My big question is, if he goes in the winter, who the heck are we bringing in? Because I mean,
there's a lot of wingers on this team that are just not healthy at all.
Durnville has never been healthy in his life. I don't count him.
Very true.
So we're going to
have to reassess his situation next summer.
Gittens,
who's also not healthy usually.
And Bayer. And Bayer's just a newly converted right winger.
Right.
I just feel like we have to bring someone in. Cole Campbell, yes, but he's argue that he's getting minutes now because of the injury crisis.
Got to be another striker for me. Girassi is a ticking time bomb. I hope to God I'm wrong, but the man again plays fucking every single second for this team at the moment, and it's just something's got to give soon.
There's been a few matches where I'm just like surprised that Girassi like I see him in the starting 11 and I'm like, what? I'm just like assuming that he's injured every time, and no, I'm glad he's not, and I'm surprised that he's not, because he's not the youngest either. still running out every match.
Mullen should get a start at the break, though, or at the weekend, excuse me, right before the break here. You don't want to risk anything else. I mean, Mainz is going to be really, really tough away. We've struggled with them a handful of games home and away recently. So, if Shaheen wants to try that same thing one more time, there's not really much you could do, even if you bring in Mullen. There's not many changes you could bring about, but still, you want to try to rest these players as much as possible. I know they canceled the training session recently for that fact. I think it was just right after the Wolfsburg game. And I'm imagining the training sessions will be a lot more on the lighter side if there's much, of any fitness really at all come these next few days, because again, 4 games in 10 days is pretty excessive. And with the injuries that we already have, there's just nothing else you want to risk going into this break. You want to just take that momentum. You want to ride it as long as you can, keep grinding out results, and just try to get a little higher in the Bundesliga here. Those 3 points against Leipzig are huge, and you don't want to just piss that away against a team like Mainz the weekend.
Yeah, it's so beneficial to get, as you mentioned, those 3 points. But I like looking beyond the points, like to slightly, hopefully, turn things around. Like this can be a good point in the season to where maybe start trending for the better. My only hesitation, I'm trying not to get overly excited. Yes, we won 2 games on the trot after losing, I think, 5, but they're both home games, and we've been so bad on the road. We haven't won a road game in the Bundesliga. I think the only one was Club Brugge in the Champions League is the only positive result on the road. And this is where it really mattered. Like this is the point to prove it, that we are actually trending in the right direction. Two home games. Although Leipzig was a big win, doesn't give me a lot of confidence with just these last 2. Like we need to prove it on the road. And as you said, yeah, it's going to be tough. This is like the last hurdle. Like I know they've been trying to make it to the international break to have a little extra time to get some guys back. Like we desperately need it. This is coming at such a good time before, things really just ramp up again. The unfortunate thing that I will say is all our guys who have been playing nonstop, shout out to Nico Schlotterbeck, Pascal Gross, Julian Brandt, and Metja, who've been nominated to the German squad during the international window. I just hope they can still find some rest in those. And maybe they will. Like they're guys who haven't necessarily played a ton for the German national squad.
Oh yeah,
it's good to get the call up, but our entire team just needs a rest. And I'm hoping we can come out the other side of this. Hopefully, come out of Mainz unscathed and come out of the international break with more guys back. The Mainz game, I know the lineup basically picks itself, but real quick, I want to ask you who's starting at left back, because. Or are we going to change formations? Because I think Benzabaini is out with yellow cards.
Oh, yeah, shit. I totally forgot about that. That's true. Oh, God, I have no idea, brother. My brain is fried. I was going to say the only change I would have is Mullen in for JBG.
No, Mullen's in for Benzabaini. And then we will have no first team players on this.
Oh, bench. God. I'm imagining we'll see a Schlotterbeck at left back. That's my guess.
Who's the other center back? Just a kid?
Cole Campbell, baby. No, I have no fucking.
We have some kid center backs on the bench at least.
I've heard at times Metja has been consideration for there. That very well could be what happens.
Kabar.
That's a tough away game to try to get a result with Kabar, man. I don't know. I haven't seen him in training. That's the thing here. We do not have the insight of how he is looking in training, and it just makes me nervous given we have not won an away game this whole season in the Bundesliga, and that's going to be tough, man. I remember Moret, whenever we were playing away in the spring, Mainz targeted him all goddamn game because they just knew he was going to be off. And I don't want to doubt Kabar. I don't know. Maybe he starts and he actually does very solid, but I'm just imagining Mainz will know it and target him.
Yeah. I'm just looking at FOTMob right now. And I don't think this is the most accurate for injury updates. They kind of give you a guess, but I don't really know what's going on. The one who looks the close, I guess there's 2 that look the closest. Like Jan Couteau says a few days, like possibly back in a few days, and Vetchen as well. So maybe Vetchen gets a start Vetchen and Vetchen drops back if Couteau is able to come back. I also don't see Couteau, he hasn't played that much anyways. I don't see him coming in and starting immediately. No. Vetchen,
see that either.
Maybe, but coming off an injury, I doubt it. I don't know. So that's the real. I think we'll probably find out more by the time this episode's out. We'll probably find out a little
Right.
more from the presser and everything.
That's how it goes.
But yeah, no, mine's on the weekend. I think it's a 9:30 Eastern kickoff Saturday morning. So quick turnaround. Appreciate you guys hanging out and listening. This is episode. Carver, you got anything else?
Thank you for hanging out as always, everyone. Appreciate you.
Yep. We'll see you later. Bye.